What's up guys, my name's Brandon and today Apple released iOS 13.2 Beta 4 just 1 week after the release of Beta 3 and also a week after the public release of iOS 13.1.3. Now if you're a public beta tester, the public beta should also be out later today or it may be out by the time you're watching this video. I will have that updated down in the description below. So of course in this video today we're going to be talking about what's new here in iOS 13.2 Beta 4 and I'm also going to talk about how Beta 3 has been running for me on my iPhone 11 Pro Max, which I use every single day, and also on the iPhone SE and the iPad Pro. Taking a look at the size here of Beta 4, you can see it came in at about 160 megabytes here on my iPhone 11 Pro Max. It was a little bit larger on the iPad Pro and also on the iPhone SE, but it was under 200 megabytes for all devices. So let's go ahead and check out the build number here for this update. Let's go to settings, general, about 13.2, and you can see the build number there is 17B5084A. Now we have an A at the end of the build number there, which does usually indicate that this could be a GM build. So this could be the GM build of 13.2. If it's not the GM build, we're getting very, very close, and that means we can expect a release of 13.2 within the next week or two. And if we scroll down a little bit more, you could see that we do have a modem firmware update as well, 1.02.14. That's up from 1.02.13, so a very minor upgrade there on the modem firmware. But if you were having any kind of issues with connectivity, then that may be fixed here in Beta 4. So now what's new here in iOS 13.2 Beta 4? And obviously for a point update and the fourth beta of that point update, you're not really expecting to see any kind of outward facing features or changes. You're not really going to see anything major introduced this late into a beta. It's basically just going to be a bunch of bug fixes and security enhancements and things like that. And that's exactly what Beta 4 does. And one of the first things I noticed that has been fixed here is the RAM management issue. So ever since iOS 13.2 Beta 1, I've noticed major issues with like the YouTube application constantly relaunching. Like you would go and watch a video, you'd go out of the application for like 10-20 seconds, you'd come back into YouTube and that video would not be there playing anymore. It'd go back to the front page of YouTube and you'd have to go back in and search for that video again or find that video to continue watching it. It was super, super annoying and that persisted through the first 3 betas, but I've been playing around with this for about 20-30 minutes now and I have not had that happen one time. So it seems that that issue was fixed for YouTube. Now I was also facing that exact same issue with Safari. So for whatever reason, and Safari as well, when I would go out of Safari and go into another application, it wouldn't be as bad as YouTube, but when I would go into another application and then come back into Safari, that tab that I was just on would just reload. It would give me like some kind of error at the top and it would reload the tab. It would refresh the tab every single time. This was also happening since the first beta of 13.2, but it looks like that was fixed here in 13.2 Beta 4 as well. So it's great to see that Apple is addressing the RAM management issue, since that was an issue that pretty much everybody probably reported on by now in 13.2. So anyways, the next thing I want to talk about that's been fixed is the volume HUD. So for some reason, as you can see in this video recording that I have right here, basically the volume HUD would sometimes just get stuck and it would never go away unless you pull down on it. Look at that. It's just stuck right there. I'm not adjusting the volume at all. The volume HUD is just stuck on the side and I would have to manually push it over, press up and down for it to go away. So that's been fixed here in Beta 4. It happened to me one time on Beta 3, so it's mostly fixed on Beta 3, but it's been fully fixed here on Beta 4. I was able to reproduce this every single time on Beta 1 and Beta 2, but it has been fixed here in Beta 4. And somebody asked me this question over on Twitter, which by the way, if you guys ask me a question in the comment section here on YouTube or on Twitter or Instagram, I will sometimes show you in the videos and answer your question. So he's asking if the wireless charging problem for the iPhone 11 Pro Max has been fixed. And I believe that issue was actually fixed in Beta 3. So Beta 4 should also be the same. So you should not have any issues with wireless charging. Pretty much the issue was that wireless charging just wouldn't work on the iPhone 11s. It would just, not even charge your phone. So that was fixed in Beta 3. I know that was an issue in Beta 1 and Beta 2, but it was working fine for me in Beta 3, and it's working fine for me on Beta 4 as well. I did test that once I got asked that question. Now, announced messages with Siri is working perfectly fine for me pretty much ever since it was introduced, or I should say reintroduced, because this was a feature in iOS 13.0, but it did make its way back for 13.2. However, some people are reporting to me that they only hear the notification like when they get a text message in their AirPods, but they don't actually hear Siri announcing the text message to them. They don't actually hear what the text message says. Now, I have not faced that issue, but if you have, let me know down in the comment below and definitely report it on the feedback application. But for me, I'm very, very satisfied with announced messages with Siri. Super, super useful feature. Another application that I constantly talk about here on the channel is the music application. So the music application, for some reason, the animations when you would add a song to a playlist or when you do like play next or something like that, there would be a major delay before it actually showed whatever action you just chose. So like for instance, if I go to play next, see how it shows up really quick? It used to actually take like 5 seconds before that showed up. And I've mentioned this and showed this multiple times in previous beta coverage, but that seems to be fixed here in 13.2. That was actually fixed, I believe, in 13.2 beta 1. But it's nice to be able to see that it's still working perfectly fine and there's no real issues or hiccups, nothing slowing down or anything like that. I do also like the new menu, how it looks right there. Looks a lot more condensed and a lot cleaner and a lot easier to press on the buttons. I'm also loving the history feature right here where you can go back and see all the songs you listened to in the past, and if you want to replay them, you can just easily go back and do that. I'm really liking that feature as well. That's like an old school iTunes feature and is now in iOS 13.2, so I'm loving that. Now, one issue I've been facing ever since iOS 13.2 is that sometimes I won't even get alerts for text messages. So when I would get a text message or an iMessage, I would not get any kind of sound or vibration when I would turn vibration on. I don't normally keep it on, but I was testing to see if I'd get a vibration and I didn't get either. So basically I would get the banner showing that I got a new notification and I would get the badge and everything down here, but I would not hear any kind of sound. I wouldn't get my regular alert. I wouldn't hear vibration, nothing. And that's been happening ever since 13.2 beta 1. So hopefully that has been fixed here in beta 4, but I have not had enough time to test that out just yet because it doesn't happen every time. It's just every once in a while. Another issue that's still persisting here in beta 4 is the GPS arrow up there in the status bar. So for whatever reason, that continuously shows up even when you turn location services completely off. Even when you have nothing using your location, it will still show the arrow up there. So that's been persisting ever since beta 1 as well, and that still hasn't been fixed. So hopefully that does get fixed before the final release. But as far as overall performance goes here on iOS 13.2 beta 4, I would expect it to be about the same as beta 3, which beta 3 has been perfectly fine for me. I've not really had any issues, no hiccups, no app crashes, nothing like that. Really, my main issue with beta 3 was just the constant relaunching and reloading of the YouTube app and Safari. But now that that's been fixed in beta 4, I really don't have anything to complain about in terms of performance for iOS 13.2. I mean, the only thing I can really say that needs to be fixed before the final release is the arrow up in the top status bar, but that's something really minor that a lot of people probably aren't even gonna notice. So other than that though, performance is perfectly fine here on iOS 13.2. The same goes for battery life. Battery life has been perfectly fine for me on pretty much every beta in iOS 13.2. So really no complaints there. If we go to my battery right here, of course I do have 100% battery health since this is the iPhone 11 Pro Max. But if we go back, you can see I'm using my phone quite often. Over the last 10 days, I'm averaging about 9 hours and 43 minutes of screen on time. And I'm not really charging my phone that much. I mean, the battery in the iPhone 11 Pro Max is a beast, but still, iOS 13.2 is great for optimizing the battery. I mean, it's pretty much just like iOS 13.1.2 and 13.1.3. I didn't really get a chance to use my iPhone 11 Pro Max on 13.1.3, but I did use it on 13.1.2. I've also been using my iPhone 11 Pro on 13.1.3, and I've noticed about the same amount of battery life. Obviously, the battery life is longer on the Max, but I'm just saying that it's still really good overall, even though we are on a beta, so you shouldn't really expect terrible battery life or battery drain or anything like that. However, there are always outliers. There are always people out there with battery drain issues no matter what the firmware is. So if you are having any kind of issues, let me know down in the comment below. I would just like to see how widespread an issue like battery drain on 13.2, beta 3, and beta 4 is. And if we take a look at the chart here, you can see I got down to 10% battery, around 10% battery at around 10 to 11 p.m. And that's without charging my phone at all during that day. So it definitely lasted me the entire day yesterday, and that's consistent with iOS 13.2. So no complaints in terms of battery life. Of course, let me know how it's running for you though down in the comment section below. And I know I always get questions asked about the mail application. For me, the mail application has been running perfectly fine. I don't have the double sent messages. I don't have the, can't erase messages, they don't go to the trash and things like that. I don't have any of those issues that I used to have in previous versions of iOS 13. So the mail application seems to be fixed for the most part on iOS 13.2. And yeah, that's pretty much it for iOS 13.2 beta 4. Again, this could possibly be the GM build, which would mean that we do get the final release next week, possibly on the 30th, maybe, on the 28th or 29th as well. Sometime early next week is a time frame when we could actually see the public release of iOS 13.2. Now, as far as an Apple event goes, I don't see an Apple event happening in October. I mean, we're pretty much, a week before the end of October, so I don't see that happening. I don't see Apple sending out invites and having an event before October is up. So we could see one in November. Apple doesn't like to they don't usually do events in November. But I could possibly see that happening, or we could just see the new MacBooks get released without an event, maybe just a press release announcing the new MacBook Pros. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts about this software and anything else down in the comment section below. You guys know I always love to respond to you down there. I really appreciate your guys' support and asking questions and giving me feedback on these beta software. So if you guys enjoyed this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up, and also make sure you guys do subscribe so you don't miss the final release video of iOS 13.2 and all future iOS versions. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you soon.